All right. Hey, y'all. I'm running late today, so I'm going to call it the late show. How about that? But I hadn't been on in a few days, so we're going to have some fun today. So make sure you got your beverages on hand. Make sure you done used the bathroom. You done got your beverages. You got your snacks. And you in a nice, comfortable seat. Because we're going to get into some stuff today. And I feel compelled to give a few explanations about some things that are going on. And, everybody I know is not going to always agree with me or with my ideologies about the things that I say. But I try as hard as I can to, if nothing else, provide some truth. And like I always say, before I get started, I want you to understand that when I say something, I don't want you to believe me. I want you to check it for yourself. I don't say stuff just to be saying it. I don't say things that I'm making up. I say things that are the truth, the reality of what we deal with on a daily. Now, my reality might not be the same as everybody's. I understand that. I get it. Some folks' reality is a little different. I respect that. But the fact of the matter is, I try to add, at least if nothing else, perspective. And I try real hard to understand everyone else's position in that. So with that said, we're going to get the party started. So y'all get ready. Hold tight. Get your drinks. Hit the bathroom. Get your snacks. And we're going to get into this. Yes, sir. It's time to do the damn thing, y'all. Okay, so check this out. For the last, let me put it this way. Since the weekend, right? I have been inundated. I use my big words today. I have been inundated with conversations, posts, and things on social media dealing with what people would like to, the focus that people want to place on the violence in the city of Chicago. Now, I'm not going to ride the Chicago thing so much, but I am going to ride the mindset that keeps us sort of in a bad place and in the dark. Because this applies across the board. It doesn't matter what city you live in. You have to understand what's taking place. You have to understand the reasons why these things look the way they do and why things are the way they are. Now, I have a personal beef with what I like to refer to as armchair activists or keyboard commandos, the internet thugs and things like that. Here's the thing. A whole lot of folks sit behind computer keyboards and everybody has an opinion, and that's fine. I really, I expect everybody to have that because without opinions and without ideas and different ways of doing things, the world is not what it is. It's supposed to be that way. It's a very colorful place. I see you, Sandy, and WB Reese, Renee. How you doing? Antoinette, thank you for checking in. The world is an extremely colorful place, and it should be that because if everybody was cute, then it wouldn't be no ugly people. If everybody was fat, then there wouldn't be no skinny people. We all got to be different. The diversity is what makes us what we are, and especially with black folks, man, because we cover every shade there is. We cover everything. We got it all. We got it all right within our own group. And without that, what do we really have? I see you, Riri. Thank you for coming in, babe. So it's important that we embrace that. It's important that we understand that, you hear some people say, well, I'm colorblind. And I'm quick to remind them, maybe you shouldn't be. Fact is, you can be who you are, and I appreciate and respect it. I just want you to do the same for me. But don't think that my character is going to be dictated by the color of my skin, because that's not how I should be judged. And as Dr. King once said, I heard it somewhere, said he want to be judged by the content of character rather than the color of skin. That is something that we all need to begin to practice, recognize, and understand. So when it comes to our armchair activists and people of that nature, you know, you cannot see. Okay, let me back up. I said all of that other stuff about personality and things like that for a reason. I said that because I think it's a good thing that we are all so different. However, when it comes to putting down information and speaking your mind, that's a cool thing to be able to do. And we have the freedom to do that. However, when you start providing information, my only request is that you take a little time and dig deep within yourself and ask first whether or not this information is how you feel or is it a fact. And here's why I say that. Do you know there's a lot of people walking around in the world right now today who took what somebody else felt as fact, and because they love that person or trusted that person so much that they believed that what that individual told them was the gospel. And therefore, they walk around every day thinking that they know something that they've never actually done the homework on. They just believe it because someone that they love or somebody that they care about or somebody that they think is smart told it to them. I'll say it again. Always do your homework. Don't trust the source. Don't be so quick to just, oh, okay, well, so-and-so said it, it must be true. I don't care who it is. And I've had people say, well, brother, if I know if you said it, it must be right. I don't even want you to trust me. I want you to do the homework yourself. I see you, Jackie. Thank you for checking in. It's good to see you. It's been a minute. I say, check the work. How the teachers used to tell you, show your work. Show me how you came to this conclusion. I need to know. Because otherwise, you just repeating a whole bunch of nonsense. Now, speaking of regurgitating garbage, sometimes you can hear things from willfully ignorant and conscientiously stupid people. People who have no real intent on doing anything to make things better, specifically, as I'm talking about in our community. I was just having a conversation a few minutes ago before I came on here. And Dana Brock, I see you, my brother. Thank you. The problem comes when we get distracted, and it's so easy for us to get distracted. We live in a time of immediacy. We live in a time of microwave everything. There was a time, and I tell people, I can remember when we used to, back in the day, when I was going to school, wasn't no such thing as computers and all of that sort of thing. We had to actually do the work. We had to actually walk to the library, use the Dewey Decimal System, and find one of however many books were available on whatever information we were looking for at the library. Now, we have a device in our hand that literally eliminated a calculator, a camera, a typewriter, a telephone, a flashlight. The list goes on. Y'all know how much stuff a phone will do now. We didn't have that growing up, many of us. So the thing becomes, if you have this much power in your hand, use it. Look this stuff up. Check it for yourself. Don't just draw conclusions about things that affect millions of people's lives and you haven't done your homework, especially if you're going to repeat, or should I say regurgitate, information. You know what they say about bullshit is chewed up grass. So we got to be able to provide or say things. Now, some people just like to lie though too now. So don't get me wrong. I know it's some of them out there, they just like to make up stuff because it sounds good. But it's just like when you watch stuff that goes across social media. You got to be careful what you're reading. You see news stories and things, and you need to look at the source. I don't deal with unreliable sources, these made up websites and made up, and they're supposed to be news. I cannot count how many people that I've seen who, my conspiracy theorist family, y'all know how I feel about the conspiracy theories. I can't stand them. But there are a lot of people out here who buy into the sort of National Enquirer of social media. And if it's something sensational that makes headlines and it looks good and it sounds like something juicy, they jump all over it. And the next thing you know, did you hear so-and-so died today? That person ain't even dead. But it done went viral. These are dangerous, dangerous things. Now, there's people out here that are just literally hell-bent on putting information out here, mostly unsolicited, but even more so inaccurate. And we tend to get sidetracked by these things. Now, I said that to say this. I'm going to start here because we got a lot to cover today. I have witnessed a whole lot of people who have come across my timeline on Facebook and Twitter and some other areas. And they insist on trying to put out this narrative about not voting for Joe Biden. Let me start this by saying, I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what your party affiliation is. But here's my point. There is not a whole lot that you should be able to tell anybody about Joe Biden. Here's why. I think some people may have forgotten. That man was the vice president of the United States for 8 years. And every single piece of information that's been dropped about him recently all predates his vice presidency. Now, what I want to know is, where were all these people when he was running for vice president? Where were all of these people who had all of this to say, who wanted to shoot him down? Where were they then? I just don't understand. Why didn't you provide all this information before he was elected vice president? Okay. Well, check this out. I wouldn't give a damn if Donald Trump was running against a ham sandwich. I'm voting for the ham sandwich. Yeah, I just put it out there. There you go. You have to be insane to want to deal with 4 more years of a misogynistic, homophobic, bigoted, racist. I'm not even going to go down the list. Y'all know what it is. A known liar, flat out, lie to your face. And people act like it didn't just happen. I'm sorry. There is nothing. It ain't too much of nothing you're going to be able to tell me about Joe Biden that's going to stop me or make me even think for 1 second about either not voting or voting for Donald Trump. Voting for Joe Biden is not nearly as scary as allowing Donald Trump to be in office for another 4 years. This whole country will come apart at the seams. And I don't care what your politics are. I ain't going to lie. At this point, if a decent Republican ran, I'd vote for him. And I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat either, for that matter. But my point is, all I want, I tell you what, I was driving down the street the other day and I saw a sign. I saw a sign out that said, you know how they had a campaign signs where like they say Trump 2020? This sign said, any functioning adult 2020. And that's exactly how I feel. So, this court jester that we currently have as leader of the free world, the bottom line is trying to convince people not to vote for Joe Biden or not voting. You know, that's kind of like taking poison and then hoping that the dude sitting next to you drops dead. Thinking that somehow this doesn't affect you is insanity. And I really don't know where that mindset came from. If you believe that not voting or voting for Joe Biden is somehow going to, or should I say not voting for Joe Biden is somehow going to prove something to the world, like you, you know, I'm going to show you, I'm going to show y'all. Really? Again, it's insanity. Let me tell you how stupid it sounds. Let me just give you, let me show you how stupid you sound. You at your job and you get mad. You mad at the boss. And you thinking, fuck these people, I'm quitting. I'm going to show them. But the thing is, you quit and you ain't even got another job lined up. Really? Who are you proving something to? Because if you think for 1 second that that company is about to shut down because you quit, you have lost your mind. Hey, Tanya, I see you. Denise Baker, thank you for checking in. I see you, Cynthia. Mr. Honeycutt in the building. Dennis, I see you checking in. I appreciate all of you. Thank you. You've lost your mind if you think that a company is going to close because you decided I'm going to show them, I'm going to quit. What they going to do without me? Keep going. Keep making money. They'll have somebody in your place before you hit the door good. Trust me when I tell you that. I'm a business owner and I had people who thought that same thing about me. Oh, I'm going to quit. I'm going to leave. Bye. Watch this. And don't come back looking for your job because it'll be filled. See, this is the way, this is the type of ideology that people have some God complex. Like they're going to do something that's going to shake up the world. You ain't got them kind of chips. You ain't playing that. You ain't playing with you got to have something. You got to bring something to the table in order for it to matter whether or not you make a move. Now, the thing is this. You don't vote. You are hurting yourself. You just don't want to accept the fact that the Supreme Court is being stacked with individuals who will vote against everything that you are. And to prove this point, y'all know about voter suppression, right? See, this is where I'm going to take you with that whole conversation. Right now in Kentucky, they are voting in their primary. And as it turns out, let me find that thing. As it turns out, in Kentucky, they reduced the number of polling places for this election. Predominantly in areas that are ethnically populated. In other words, they trying to keep black folks from voting. Imagine that. See, these same people be talking about our vote don't matter. It don't mean nothing. If it didn't mean anything, trust and believe they would not be working this hard to keep you from voting. If you think they putting all of this money out here and making all these moves for no reason whatsoever, once again, you are insane. They went from, let me find the number here. They literally went from 3,700 polling locations across the entire state of Kentucky down to 200 across the entire state. There is one polling place in the whole state, around Louisville and the larger cities for people to vote at today. They are expecting tens of thousands of individuals to come out and vote. And Jackie Russell, you are absolutely correct. It is just like Atlanta. That's exactly what took place there. And hopefully, I did read a story earlier that said that they are doing pretty well, actually. I hope that it doesn't turn bad. But let me show you something. This all goes back to exactly what I was saying in regard to how they created or are creating these situations with your vote. Now, let's remember the election board in Kentucky, and you know whose state that is. And if you don't know, let me tell you, that's Mitch McConnell, head devil in charge, because he don't mean nobody no good. I don't even know if him and Trump are cool. I think he's got his own agenda and he's working it. But there are a couple of people running against him, and I hope and pray that he is ousted, because he is a fly in the ointment and has been since the days of Obama. Gotta go. That's why I say they need to have term limits on these senators and these Congress people, because they get comfortable in there and they lock in, and next thing you know, we start having problems. But they claim that they closed these polling places all down because of coronavirus. Now, let's keep in mind that coronavirus is the reason for them closing polling places, but nobody said a word when Trump was trying to give a rally in Oklahoma this weekend, that was supposed to host over 19,000 people, but it turns out there were only 6,600. And of course, he found somebody else to blame, as he always does, and he claimed that that was because of the protesters, the same protesters that he said would not be met with the same nice behavior and smiling faces that they were in Minneapolis and other places. I think that, of course, that was an idle threat, and he realizes that his threats fall on deaf ears now, because he found out that his military is not behind him the way that he thought he was. His autocrat behavior is catching up to him, because even the people around him, or as they say, the cracks are starting to show in the foundation of what he's doing. But we already know that particular presidency has been built on a foundation of sand, and it will soon come down, which I so look forward to. So he knows where his political career is headed. And hopefully when he's done, they have a beautiful pair of silver bracelets with his name on them, because New York, who has already named him the person number one, that's they call him affectionately person number one, or an unnamed co-conspirator. So his day is coming. And the thing about not these polling places, you see, the real problem is that by not having enough, and not enough people complaining about it or raising enough hell, and see, this is where I was going, and I got off track. Let me go back. Understand this. When you have a president like the one we have, who has the power and the will to seat whom he chooses with the power of other Republicans in the Senate on that Supreme Court, even though they delivered him a few nasty blows in the last week, they actually went against what he thought they would. He thought he was going to have people on his side. But understand this. Prior to this, they gutted the Voting Rights Act. In doing so, you have to understand that there was a condition in the Voting Rights Act that made sure that these types of changes could not be made without federal clearance. It was called a pre-clearance process. Okay. Now, 2013 Shelby County versus Holder, which was celebrated by conservatives, was an invalidating of that pre-clearance process. So what that means is that they no longer had to get permission through the federal government to change polling places, locations, or any of that. Now, let me show you how messed up that is, because it don't really sound like a big old deal. You know, a lot of people don't really, you know, these things go under the radar and nobody pays any attention to them and don't really think. But I know that most of my audience is pretty mature and know a little bit about history. But at one time, there was a test that you had to take in order to have the right to vote if you were black. And they might ask you a question like, how many jelly beans is in that jar? And if you didn't guess the amount of jelly beans down to the exact number that were in that jar, you couldn't register to vote. Another one of those questions was, how many bubbles in a bar of soap? If you couldn't tell them how many bubbles was in a bar of soap, you couldn't register to vote. And I want you to know that was the law. See, just because somebody make a law don't make it right. So this is the direction that we're headed in. We got to be careful, y'all, what we allow. And if you think not voting or voting for Donald Trump is in your best favor, please understand, you're only setting yourself up for failure. And if not yourself, your children, your grandchildren. It would be different if we were talking about somebody who actually had a human side. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a person who is self-serving, narcissistic, and generally an asshole. It would be different if we were talking about somebody who had respect for the office that they're in and human life. We're not talking about that. Like I said again, you can put a ham sandwich up there. I'll take it. And I don't even eat pork. And I'll vote for that before I will him. Okay? Understand that if they get away with this gerrymandering, as Dennis has said on here, then that will be another, because it's a tactic. You got to understand, it is a shame that we now live in a society where cheating is actually a thing right in front of everybody's face. And people are cool with it. Is that what this democracy has come to? Is that where we are now? That's pretty sad. You know, I don't care how you slice this. I don't care how you put it. I don't care how we look at it. It's a sad day when cheating has actually become an option, a viable option, and they get away with it. But we the people, we can stop it, especially right now, especially black folks. We have an opportunity to get a lot done. Now I'm going to show you one more thing about this. The reason, okay, when they gutted the Voting Rights Act and they made it where they didn't have to ask anybody to make these changes and to close these polling places and do all this type of thing, it kind of backfired on them. Here's why. Y'all heard about the people voting by mail now. Well, it turns out that more people are voting by mail than anticipated. So many that they're now having trouble making sure that they get the vote counted. So here's the funny part. There are more people voting now because of the ability to vote by mail than there were before. And we all know that if the majority of Americans vote, the way they should have 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, somebody wouldn't be where they are. So here's what's getting ready to happen. More people are voting, which is more or less a kick in the ass to them because nobody had to ask. See, according to him, it's all, according to the Mango Maniac, it's all going to be cheating. It's going to be voter fraud. But guess what? You can't question it because there's no longer a Voting Rights Act. This is what you call the chickens coming home to roost. So, once again, like I always say, their short-sightedness always comes back to haunt them. And here we go again. And it's going to definitely be his undoing. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. It's always a two-way street, don't you know? So, check this out, y'all. I want to get back on my people right quick. And here's why. I was having a discussion today. I think I got cussed out too. A gentleman went off on me for saying what I had to say about why it's so important for us to learn to and begin to control the narrative about us and who we are. Going back to the city of Chicago, let's be real clear about this here. Chicago, which seems to have become the poster child for all violence everywhere, and especially if it's dealing with black folks and black folks. Well, let me tell y'all something. Chicago ain't even in the top 20 most violent cities in the country. Let me do that again. Chicago is not even in the top 20 most violent cities in the United States. Don't believe me? Look it up. Now, why is it that every time I turn around, somebody says, well, what about all the killing in Chicago? What about all the black on black crime? Whew. Man, y'all make me tired. Y'all make me so tired. Please stop. It is ridiculous how much we buy into the nonsense that is just fed to us, and we just eat it up. Now, I want y'all pay attention to this. Dennis McCullum, you're absolutely correct. St. Louis is number 1. Now, look at this. 85% of white people that are killed in America each year are murdered by other white people. Yet we never hear the term white on white crime. Black on black crime is a term that has been coined specifically for black people to create feelings of self-hatred and disunity within our race. It's a tactic to divide and conquer. Now, I just read that to you. I'm going to leave it there a little bit longer so you can read it for yourself, because I need you to understand. See, in order sometimes for shit to get fixed, some things have to get broken. And what you have to break is the ideology that black on black crime is actually a thing, or that black people are the poster child for crimes committed against people who look like them. It's just as simple as that. We are not the poster child for people who kill people who look like them. Stop buying into the BS. I don't know how many times I got to say it. It's in the Black Factor, baby. Get your copy. I got a new shipment in yesterday, and we slinging them out the door. Can't bag them up, pack them up fast enough. There's a chapter in this book called The Image Factor. In The Image Factor, I discuss specifically that we have to learn to control the narrative. We have to learn to control what there is about us and our society and our community. How the hell somebody else gonna come in to our community and tell us how we living and tell us how we get down. What you do is they sit there and they listen to this nonsense coming across the white controlled media, people who like to sensationalize everything and then talk about how bad we doing. It's almost like saying, Massa, we sick? We ain't sick. Y'all, I'm begging you, please stop this. Please stop buying into the nonsense. Now, I'm not saying that people are not being killed or people are not being shot and people are not being harmed in the city of Chicago. But what I am saying, stop playing this thing the way they're telling you to play it. We have plenty of opportunities to fix what needs to be fixed. Dennis McCullum, no, we don't. We do not have black media outlets, and that is the tragedy in this, because that's something that we need to have and something we need to develop. And I personally am working on something along those lines right now myself. Phyllis Harris. She says, the reality of it is we are killing each other at an alarming rate, especially our youth. Where's the outrage there? You don't see white folks jumping up and down in their community. The same thing is happening in their community. You know what? It's so crazy because you can't make people believe that white folks is killing each other. That's the funny part to me. That's the part that cracks me up. Now, I'm not saying it's okay that black people are killing each other, but I think it's quite hilarious. Just because the only faces they show you on the news are black folks. Just because the perp walks you get to see are black folks. Just because all the faces they put up to say that this person committed that crime are black folks. Phyllis, you of all people know that that's part of the narrative. You know they only going to show certain people. They're not going to show those other folks. They only going to show the people they want to make believe that they are the most violent and most troublesome group in the world. When the fact is, the most violent group, watch them old Martin Luther King tapes. Watch how them white folks be cutting up, spitting on people and sicking dogs and kicking in water hoses. You ain't seen black people act like that. Show me one video anywhere where you see black people behaving like that. You can't. We are made to be, in the eyes of the world, the most violent. This right here is my crime, my skin, criminalized. Why? Because they said so. Why? Because they control it. Not because it's true. And the fact is, just because they say it doesn't make it true. We have to stop buying into these ideas. Again, it's about disunity among our race. We up here fighting each other over black folks killing black folks. And you listen to that girl got on that family's funeral today talking about when are we gonna stop killing each other? And I don't mean to mock her. I'm not mocking her, but understand this. We not the only people killing each other. Just stop. Stop it with all of this trying to make it like we are the reason why everything is wrong in the world. See, it almost sounds like I'm defending killers. I'm not. What I'm trying to do is make us understand that in order for us to fix this problem, we have to find a way to circumvent the BS. Stop looking at this. Because right now, if we spend 2 hours talking about black folks killing black folks, that's 2 less hours we spend getting to the root of the problem, because we so focused and distracted about what's actually happening that we can't talk about what needs to happen in order for it to be repaired. Because it's only a symptom of a much larger sickness. Okay? We got our own pandemic going on, and it ain't got nothing to do. And let me show you something else. And this is another thing that people overlook when we talk about systemic racism. Understand that the reason why a lot of things in the community are the way they are, and some of y'all have heard me say this before, I'm going to say it again. People get to talking about crabs in a barrel. Baby, look, Crabs don't belong in the barrel. You gonna blame the crabs for trying to get out? Don't blame the crabs for trying to get out. Blame whoever put them in the damn barrel. They don't belong there. Dennis McCullum, exactly. Poverty is the problem. When you have government-sponsored redlining, government-sponsored experimentation of human life and social experiments and social construction and social engineering taking place, coming straight from your government, what do you expect is going to happen? See, we forget that when those same men that Drew Brees talked about, who came back from World War II like his grandfather, he get to come back. His grandfather came back and was able to get a GI loan and move and buy a house anywhere he wanted. Fact is, black men had to buy their houses within a particular area on a map with a red line around it. That's where redlining came from. It was a government-sponsored idea that still exists to this day. A lot of people don't want to admit that, but it's true. We know we ain't going to live in certain neighborhoods. I mean, we can get away with it a little more now than we could back then, but back then, the government wouldn't even loan you the money to buy a house in certain neighborhoods. You had one area to function in. And guess what that did? That caused us to all be right together, piled on top of each other. And when we pile on top of each other, needless to say, within that pile, there's going to be limited resources. Dennis McCullum, once again, you are correct. Have you ever heard of two rich people trying to kill each other? Rarely. And it's usually because one of them is just super duper damn greedy. He ain't just trying to survive. It's something else going on. And that's a fact. When you pile a bunch of people on top of one another and you limit the amount of resources that's available to those people, it's going to look just like crabs in a barrel. That's what crabs in a barrel look like. They all piled in there together and they scrambling over the top of each other trying to figure out, how the hell do I get out of this? Not, I'm trying to pull that brother back down. I'm trying to get out just like you are. I'm sorry I accidentally grabbed you and you came back down, but hey, I'm trying to get out of here too. That's what it is. You can't blame the crabs. Blame the one who put them in the barrel. The black community in those days were the barrel. Everybody wanted out. Now, once that time came and some folks did get out, you still had those that were left behind, who are still to this day left behind. Then you had the construction and building of projects. And then you had the people who decided to add welfare to the mix. Welfare to the point of, yeah, we're going to give you this money, but you can't have no man in the house. We can't have you having a man laying up while we take care of you and your kids. Now you got a government sponsored daddy. Now the government daddy, Uncle Sam, is running your house. The man can't be around. Oh, yeah, by the way, let's hit him across the head for this child support. Oh, you can't pay child support? Now you're a member of the prison industrial complex. Yeah, look at how we going to do this. Now, since we got you locked up. Guess what? We're going to use your free labor and make some money off of you while you here. So while these big corporations start using that free labor, see, because again, y'all have to remember your Constitution. By right, slavery is abolished unless you have been incarcerated for a crime and thereby allowing yourself to be used as a slave. You can call it whatever you want. You listen to our young people. I ain't scared to go to jail. I don't care about going to jail. You should. Because once you get there, they then use your populace number on the census in that little jail, in that little rural town. And they say, yeah, we can get more money from the government for this population in this area. See, and that's what you call government-sponsored gerrymandering. See, it's cyclical. All of this goes together. There's a reason why all of these things are in place. You can't think that this just is all by happenstance. Now, You done got your men locked up. You got women running around. Now they got to work 2 jobs. And if they work 2 jobs, of course they can't be on welfare, but they got to work 2 jobs to raise kids. Kids start running the street. Next thing you know, you got a dope dealer in your house. And of course, he got to try to keep the heat off of him. He got to run from the police. He got to run from the other cats that's out here trying to rob him in the process. And then he got them ones that that don't want to pay their bills on time. See, and it's one big ass circle. Next thing you know, he locked up for that. Now he in there sitting next to daddy. He in there sitting next to his pops. Pops in there for one thing or another. He in there for one thing or another. And you got a whole generation of babies being raised with no male presence, no type of structure, and it all recycles again. Because now the little boys grow up, they don't have a daddy in their house. They running wild, they in the street, they doing what they do, out here shooting and killing. And then here we are back to the beginning. See, it's all cyclical. It's all part of the system. It all started with, well, I ain't gonna say that's where it started, but it was a contributor. Government sanctioned redlining after World War II. That was just the beginning of that part. And as you see how I just walked you through that whole history of how we ended up damn near where we are right now today. And all of these same systems are still in place right now today. It's just that you don't recognize them because they go by different names, or, you know, you got to realize that a lot of times we're given that bone and we forget. Ain't no meat on it, but it still tastes like a steak. And we take what we can get and we think we got somewhere. It's like sticking that knife in 12 inches and then pulling it out 6 and calling it progress. That's not how this works. At some point, we're going to have to gain and maintain the control of the narrative where we are concerned and stop allowing others to mandate who we are, how we're going to be treated, how we feel every time something happens that's not in our favor. Because every time we stand up and say, hey, you're not going to treat me that way, all of a sudden we become the bigot. You ever notice how you try and tell some white folks that they are a racist? Of course, they don't want to hear that because it's harsh to them. It disturbs their fragility. And they know they are. But suddenly, because you mentioned the word race, in their feeble minds, you suddenly are the racist. Let's see. I'm a racist because I won't let you call me names, beat on me, treat me badly. And all of this because you don't like the complexion of my skin. But I'm the racist because I called you what you are. Imagine that. This is the world that we live in. This is the reality of what we deal with on a daily basis. I am happy that we finally, there are those who are waking up and they're starting to realize that everything that we've been saying all this time are actually realities that we live every single day. It's a damn shame of all of what we had to go through to get to the point where somebody would believe us. It's a shame that if you watch, you know, everybody in my age group coming up, I can remember in the 70s, in the early 70s, mid 70s, we would watch Sanford and Son and Archie Bunker and what's the one? George Jefferson and them shows. And they always had bigoted jokes, and they always said things that today people's heads would explode if they said that in a TV show. But they laughed about it. When you look back, the things they were saying were rooted so much in reality. It was their way of trying to laugh off the truth and make it satire, which on the one hand, had its benefits. On the other hand, it wasn't necessarily a good thing because there were those who thought that those things were funny. Fred Sanford and Lamont always made jokes about the police and how brutal the police were to them. George Jefferson, like a lot of black folks who have made it out of the ghetto, pretended like the police shouldn't be talking to him no kind of way because he made it. And he was a successful black man. You know, here we are in a time where those jokes are not jokes. They weren't jokes then. They made light of these things, but they weren't funny. They especially weren't funny to the black men who had to deal with these things on a daily basis, and it wasn't something silly on TV because they did have to deal with it. Here we are. First time I ever had a police pull a gun on me, I was 15 years old out in front of my high school. White cop stuck a .357 Magnum to my head. Talking crazy. I was scared. I ain't gonna lie. Because all I could think, what the hell did I do? It's ridiculous, the stuff that we have had to endure. And that's minor compared to some things that I know about and some stuff that I've seen. The point is that police reform at this point has become an incredible necessity. Because like I always say, black folks didn't ask nobody to give us nothing. We don't want no handouts. We ain't never wanted a handout. All we want is a fair shake. I don't need you to give me shit. Just get out of my way. Let me do me. And I know plenty of people that are the same way. In fact, I know folks with a work ethic so strong, I know why they don't want you in there. Why they don't want you to do nothing, because they know you're gonna beat them. Y'all always remember this. Put this one here. Put this feather in your cap right quick. There's only 3 ways anybody can beat you. Pay attention now, y'all. There's only 3 ways anybody in this world can beat you. I don't give a damn what color they are. I don't care how big or small they are. They can either outthink you, outwork you, or intimidate you. And if you're not willing to allow any of those 3 things to happen, you can stay winning. And that's something that everybody needs to think about. Hello, Cressa. I'm glad to see you in today. Kim Shelton. Everybody, that's Cressa Patterson. That is my homegirl, Peterson. She is the inventor of the shower toga. So y'all remember that. If you one of them people that do those runs and all that kind of stuff, and you out there and you need to get cleaned up while you out and before you get in your car and that kind of thing, you need to check out Cressa Patterson's invention. It is called the shower toga. And in fact, she was on Shark Tank, and Mark Cuban picked her up. So that's a thing y'all need to look into. Let's see. Cressa says, even when I was a little kid, I knew those shows were wrong. They made me uncomfortable when my parents watched them. I did not know why at the time, but in reflection, I'm glad I realized they were messed up. There you go. So, you know, it's a thing now where, as a society, we are finally wrapping our minds around the fact that these things are not something that we need to embrace or hold on to, and we can let them go, and it's going to be all right. I think a lot of people, a lot of white folks are angry that so many of their brethren are actually coming around or have come around to understanding the humanity that is required in order for all of us to continue to survive together. They are antiques. They have antique mindset. They are to be housed in a museum. I personally will not be upset when the Donald Trumps and the Joe Bidens and the Mitch McConnells of the world decide to step away finally from politics. I am looking forward to the youth picking up the reins and bringing to the table the things that are necessary for us to be better as a society, to abolish and abandon those old ways that keep people like Trump and McConnell and Biden in power. These men are in their 70s, in their late 70s. When you get to be that old, you bring with you remnants of the past. You bring with you things, ideas, and thoughts that you came up with. And we live in a completely different time now. We are now moving into an age where our children and our grandchildren are cohabitating in ways that we've not seen in this society in my lifetime. And I am elated. I personally didn't ever think that I would see some of this in my lifetime, but I am thankful to say that I'm witnessing this. Now, the only problem, and I had another conversation today, is that we need to begin to set ourselves up. We can't walk away from everything that is in regard to, say, for, like we talked about politics. Here's what I want to suggest, because I don't like to be the one that's always making complaints and not having any solutions. Politically speaking, there are a lot of people who are trying to convince many of us to not vote or to not vote for Joe Biden. This is not the time for that. Okay? This is not the time. The time would have been 4 years ago. The time would have been 8 years ago to begin thinking about, not begin thinking about, hell, the time should have been 80 years ago. What are we waiting for to stop this third two-party system and bring other parties into the game? See, we can't sit here and keep complaining about the same system every 4 years, because this is exactly what happens. Every 4 years, here we are. Oh, I ain't voting so-and-so. Them Democrats always trying to get black people. They just automatically think black people going to vote for them. Knowing damn well if you vote for a Republican, you definitely voting against your best interest, even though the Democrats ain't much better, but at least they ain't going to be going after you like the Republicans will. They'll leave you be. They ain't going to give you nothing, but they ain't going to bother you. Republicans trying to cut your head off. But here's the thing. What we need to be doing is beginning a new party. What we need to be doing is beginning parties that are going to be viable in the future. You can't just pull that rabbit out of your ass 5 months before an election and expect that it's going to make a difference. Them people don't give a damn. Do y'all understand? This goes back to the analogy I did earlier. You think you're just gonna quit your job and you're gonna mess up the whole company? You think if you don't vote that you're gonna mess up the whole party? Are you insane? It's not how this works. If you want to compete, if you want to really get back at the company that you're quitting from and you telling them, I'm quitting, y'all, I'm gonna get away from y'all. You want to get at them? Then start your own company. Let me tell you something. Tell you what I used to tell my employees who all wanted to try and tell me what to do. They say, well, you should do this. You should add this to the company. You should. And I stopped them and I said, let me tell you what you should do. You should do it the way I want you to do it. Or you should go out here and start your own damn company and become my competition. That's what you should do. These parties are essentially saying to you, same thing. Don't tell us how to run this. We're doing this the way we want to do it because it benefits us this way. And here's the fact. You go start your own damn party. And then guess what? You can do it how you want to do it. And it can be done. Don't get it twisted. We've been doing this same thing. We've been playing this same ring around the rosy for decades. President after president. And every single election, especially in my lifetime, there's been the same rhetorical BS every single time. When does it stop? When does democracy actually start to look like we have a choice? When we change it. But 5 months before an election ain't the time, especially when so much is riding on where we headed next. Because if you let that fool get back in office, you ain't got to worry about where you going to end up next. Because if it's up to him, you'll be back in chains. You better be careful. And I'm laughing, but I'm not. It ain't funny. So just know that every last thing that I'm saying is viable. It's something that we can actually do. It's something that can actually be put into play. What saddens me is that we're at a place where the world is actually paying attention to where we are as a people, what our needs are, what our plight has been, what our complaints are. For the first time in my lifetime, even the white folks who would remain silent are listening. All that is required for evil to prevail is for good men to remain silent. And for once, some of those good men are standing up finally and speaking out on our behalf. The one thing that disturbs me about that is that we are, unfortunately, not prepared or on the same page enough so that we can collectively go to that table. And always remember, when you're not at the table, you're on the menu, and speak our piece and make demands of what our requirements are and what we need in this society in order to be successful and viable in our world. But as long as we remain splintered and as long as we remain divided, as I said about the fallacy of black on black crime, where white on white crime is concerned, it is a method by which to cause disunity among us and a tactic to divide and conquer. Collectively, we must have an agenda. I've heard many black folks say, Kabir, it's good to see you, my brother. Thank you for checking in. Look here, y'all. We have to have a standard set. We have to set an agenda. We have to make a way to do what we need to do. When I hear my people make a comparison to the LBGT community and complain like they do about our dear brother Barack Obama, and say he did nothing for black people as though he was Superman, who actually got an awful lot done while faced with unwavering opposition. They say, well, he did this for them and he gave that to them and he made them, made it easy for them. But let me tell you what the difference between them and us is. They had an agenda. They had a collective agenda. And when they set that agenda out there, you didn't have a bunch of fringe organizations running in there talking about, no, that ain't what we want. We want this instead. Or no, we want this. See, they weren't divided. They were together. And in their togetherness, they accomplished a main goal. And until we can do that, I don't care what else goes on. If you don't know what to ask for, what do you expect to get? Aside from the fact that the days of asking are over, it's time to start taking. Power concedes nothing without demand, brothers and sisters. And I think y'all know that because you done heard me say it a million times, probably every single show for the last 3 months, I know you've heard me say, power concedes nothing without demand. And if you have nothing to demand, don't expect anything. You get what you can hold. But if you can't hold nothing, you can't get nothing. So, all I'm saying, y'all, it's time. It's been time. But I fear that this window of opportunity may close on us if we are not very, very, very careful. Somebody need to get a stick and prop that thing up so it don't come down. I don't know what that stick looks like, but whatever it is, we need to figure it out. It's gotta happen. So, in the meantime and in between time, y'all, I want you all to take care of yourselves. And because y'all know that coronavirus ain't playing, it's out here for real. Oh, you know what? Let me deal with one more thing right quick, because this came up earlier today. I want to talk about Officer Friendly. Look at here. Over the last couple of days, I've noticed a lot of our brothers in blue are upset. And I heard that there are about 600 police officers in New York talking about walking off the job. They, for some reason, seem to believe that they are being treated badly. Imagine that. I am sorry, but I just don't understand how people are supposed to feel sorry for a group of individuals who are now angry because they don't have the right to violate your rights. You can't violate me, so now you want to quit. Imagine that. My wife asked me earlier today. She said, what would happen if you called a police officer a stupid motherfucker? Well, I said, she said, is it against the law? I said, no. I said, however, 9 times out of 10, you're going to bruise his ego just enough to piss him off. And then he's going to escalate the situation, not de-escalate like they've been trained. He's going to escalate the situation because he wants to make sure that you can't talk to him that way because he is the police. Because up underneath that blue shirt and that badge, he got a nice big old S on his chest. Or at least so he thinks. Police are upset because they no longer, or we're headed in a direction where they no longer get to violate your rights. Well, you got the police in Atlanta who are walking off the job. Hey, Cynthia, thank you for checking in, dear. William, I see you. Robert Britt, I see you, my brother, and my cousin right there. These cats walking off the job as if to say, if you don't let us continue violating the citizens' rights of this city, we're going to quit. Or we're going to walk off the job. We're going to have a blue flu. We ain't coming to work. I'm going to tell you what that amounts to. See, that's what we call the protection racket. Y'all know what the protection racket is? That's when them cats come by your store or your establishment and they say, yeah, so every week I need $200 out of you to protect you. And you say, well, no, I don't need that. I don't need no protection. Oh, yeah, you do. Because if you don't pay us $200 a week, something bad might happen here. See, that's called the protection racket. And if you don't pay them, of course, the following week, you got to buy all new windows. Or the week after that, you might have to have the fire department come by and put out a fire. Why? Because you didn't pay. In this case, we can't violate your rights, so we're not going to come to work. In other words, we're not going to protect the city because we can't do what we want, because we're going to have the freedom to run amok and violate the citizens the way we choose. It's called a protection racket. That is a crime that falls under what we now know to be a federal crime called the RICO Act. Because frankly, they're behaving like gang members. They're like one big gang. We're going to all stick together. And even though one of our members just killed somebody, the hell with y'all, we're going to protect him. That's a gang. That's gang activity. That's mob action. Let's call it what it is, because if it was you or me, I promise you, that's what they would call it. They upset because the law says, well, not the law, policy, whatever you want to call it, in some cities, in a lot of cities, that as police officers, they have up to 24 hours before they make a statement about anything that happened, any crime or any of that. They don't have to say a word. They could have just killed 3 people, and they still got 24 hours to make a statement. They're not going to be arrested. But they're hollering about in Atlanta due process. They're not getting due process. Due process for you and I looks like this. I shoot 3 people on videotape. It's nothing to talk about. I'm going to jail immediately. Handcuffs and all. Right now. Not tomorrow. Do not pass go. Right ass now. Not them. Videotape. Shot a man in the back. But you get to go home and figure out how you're going to tell this story to the convenience of your family or whoever else. Why should they be treated any differently than any other criminal? Makes no sense to me. I'm sorry. I don't get it. Forgive me, but I'm at a loss. Now you mad because you don't want to be treated the way you treat other people. Well, ain't that something? That's pretty amazing. I will go out on a limb and say, maybe if y'all treated people the way you wanted to be treated, your job wouldn't be so damn hard. It might actually get a little simpler. It might get a little bit easier if you treated people the way you wanted to be treated. I say, as part of police reform, that police officers shouldn't even be able to allow to police neighborhoods that they're not familiar with. That they're not familiar, the people, they're not familiar with the people. Hell, I remember when I was growing up in Chicago, we knew most of the officers in our area who worked out of the district in our neighborhood. They knew people by name. And we also knew that if Officer so-and-so saw you doing something, you might be out of line a little bit. Hey, man, you better take your ass home. Don't make me have to come down there and see your granddaddy. Come see your daddy, your mama. And you was like, okay. And you actually was glad because you got a pass that day. Why? Because he knew you, and he knew if you was a bad kid or not. He knew what you was up to. But you get these Superman psychos that come in from they don't allow most of them to live outside the city that they work in nowadays. They come running through the neighborhood wanting to play Batman and robbers and cops and robbers, and they want to bang everybody in the head they see. Like I'm the king around here. King Kong ain't got nothing on me. I run this. So every time you see them, now you got to run because you don't know what they're going to do next. You don't know if you're going to catch an ass whooping that day or not. Then you had that clown Burgess, police captain in Chicago, all them years, running around there straight up torturing people, putting cases on people. Got people locked up for years and years of their life. Why? Because he was nothing but a racist. But we supposed to be okay with all of that. We're supposed to be fine. Do you not understand the amount of bitterness and anger and pain that pulses throughout the neighborhood of people of color. And if you don't, keep watching. Because to be honest with you, I ain't gonna lie, I think they got off light this time. And I'm hoping that change is made. Because like I said, I don't believe in making a whole bunch of complaints without making change. I went before the city council here in San Antonio last week. My first time ever doing something like that, because I know that I can't just sit here and I speak my piece to the public. I do this because I want to offer perspective, because I want for people to maybe figure out other ways. If I can plant a seed that grows in somebody's head and comes up with some new creation or some new idea or some new way, a method, a path, then I feel like I've done my job. Mr. Owens, thank you for checking in, sir. I see you. But what I want to make sure is that I am not a hypocrite and that I sit here and do nothing. So if I can try to make a difference, then that's what I do. In fact, I had somebody today, like I said, I think I got cussed out today. But, you know, like I told that brother, there are days when, because I left the city of Chicago, I left it to raise my own children. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to voice this because I need the world to know sometimes how I feel. And this is how I feel. When I left Chicago, I left there because being younger, I was in my 20s, my late 20s. I took my family and I left the city for one reason and one reason only. My daughter had just been born. And I said, you know what, it's time to go, because I need to be able to raise my children in an environment where I don't have to worry about their well-being every waking hour, that they're not in my sight. Because I already know that as children grow, we cannot hold them underneath us the way we want to. We got to let them flourish. We got to let them grow. So I had to get out of there, and I did. There are days right now, and for many years, that I often say to myself, damn, bruh, you know, did you abandon your responsibilities? And then I have to remember that my first responsibility is to my own offspring and to the woman that I chose to marry. That's my first responsibility. And so some days I say, damn, could I have done something different to help make it better for others? Maybe I could have, maybe I couldn't. But here I am. And yes, some days I do feel some kind of way, because I do feel like maybe I could have made a difference. On the flip side, I could be dead too, while trying to make that difference. And I'm not afraid of that. I have my thoughts. And some days I feel like, yeah, forget all of that, I'm straight. Other days I feel like I need to be doing more. So I try to do what I can. Whatever that is, I try to do what I can. I have trained brothers in different arts. I have trained brothers in thought, in craft, in skill, in many, many ways. I had a kid one time come to me. He was out in the street selling dope. And I told him, I said, you know what, when you're ready to let all that go, brother, you need to come holler at me. And I put him to work, and I started teaching him the trade of body and fender work. And any other young person that will come to me that I could help in that way, I'll teach anybody any damn thing if you want to learn it. I promise I will. If I got it if it's in my repertoire, I'll give it to you. I don't need nothing for it. I'm gonna give it to you because I want to see you prosper. And if it's something that'll help you to be better, I tell you, it's nothing more fulfilling than when a young brother comes to you and says, I did good. Let me show you what I did with what you showed me or what you told me. I had a guy come to me one day. I'll never forget this. I didn't even remember him. And he walked up to me and he said, B, Man, what's up? He said, hey, man, do you remember that you showed me, and this was back in my clothes making days. See, a lot of y'all didn't know I used to be a clothing designer. I made clothes for years. And he came to me and he said, man, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be where I am today. I started my business and I'm prospering. I did this, 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 and this. And look at me now. Listen, no amount of money can buy that. None. And that is what I live for. My children are grown now and they are prospering as people. And I'm so very happy for that. It's bittersweet that I spent Father's Day here, just me and Poppy. And I told her that on the one hand, I feel some kind of way because this is the first time I've ever had a Father's Day without my children. I said, but on the other hand, look at them. Look at them fly, man. They flying like eagles. They soaring. So I'm happy. Now, I'm going to get out of here because I done did too much today. But I want to thank each and every one of y'all for coming and checking on your boy and hanging out with me and chopping it up and having these fantastic conversations, because I see all your comments. Even though I may not respond to each and every one of you, I see it. And I'm happy that y'all spend your time with me. That is a blessing within itself. And I want to say thank you. So y'all, let's keep this thing rolling. Let's keep the perspectives up. Let's try and give thought to the things we say. Let's remember to bring our brethren back into the loop when they start talking sideways. Try to help them understand. It's not about these narratives that they keep feeding you. It's about the realities and the truth about where we need to be and where we need to go. Don't forget, y'all, get your copy of The Black Factor. We got a brand new shipment in. Ready to ship. All you got to do is holla at your boy at bmforbes.com. Y'all can check out my YouTube channel. That's BM Forbes on YouTube. I'm on Twitch as well under The Black Factor. Subscribe to my YouTube now, y'all. I need your subscriptions when you get on there. Come on and check your boy out. And again, like I always say on this show, if you hear anything from me that you don't think is right, and even if you do sometimes, double check. Go back and do your homework. Look it up. Don't believe me, because I might be wrong. Hell, who knows? I've been wrong before. It could happen. But I'm going to give it to you the best way I know how, and that's the truth. I'm going to give you the truth. I'm going to give it to you 100. The only way it is to be given. So, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have yourselves a fantastic evening. I'm going to go eat me some dinner and have me a good night, so you do the same. Love, peace, and chicken grease, y'all. We out.